Well, I guess two things I feel like we could talk about today are either spirituality, or not so much as spirituality, but um, yeah, let's get into this one. Sorry.
Go ahead.
So,
what are we talking about?
Well, I don't know exactly how to word it, but we've been talking so much about doing stuff, living out your dreams, being, just doing, and never giving up. But I think we should look at the other side of it, of also
doing nothing.
Doing nothing. And not just, because I think we live in a society where we always have to be doing something, and we really should be doing nothing sometimes, because I think that's where you find this sort of happiness or enlightenment sometimes, where you're being mindful.
Well, I feel like we could end this conversation really quickly.
Okay,
because all we would have to say is there's a balance.
Well, okay, you obviously don't want to talk about
No, I mean,
it
just seems like at the end of the day we just go into it saying, well, it's a balance.
It is. Fine, we won't do this.
See what? No, I'm pointing out that that's how it's gonna end. We could talk about so many things, but it will always end up saying that it's a balance.
Yeah, so you don't want to go for the journey, you just want to be like, alright, balance.
No, it's not, I mean, I'm all for the journey, it's just, when you know where it ends, what's the point?
Well, we may know this, but I don't know if everyone knows that you need this, can understand the idea of doing nothing. And nothing, not just watching TV, but nothing being
stillness.
Yeah, but observing.
The idea of doing nothing can also be contradicted by the idea that if you're doing nothing, then you're obviously trying to do something, which is nothing.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
No, I get it, Mr. Philosopher.
It's not philosophy. It's just, is it philosophy? Probably not. It's just you're trying to do nothing.
Yeah.
When you're trying, you're doing something.
Well, I think this living in the moment idea of we're, always, not always in the now, but, we're doing things in our daily lives.
I swear we're never in the now.
Well, and we're in the now, but we're not in the now because we're not being mindful of the now.
We're always in the present, but our minds, they go left and right, they go up and down, they go
future, past.
It's not. The only way to be in the present is to do nothing.
Yeah.
You get that. You focus on the fact that you're here, and that's about it. And that's not about it. Crazy things happen, but to be in the present is to focus on only now, and now, now is nothing.
Yeah, it's that focusing and observing, being mindful and noticing the five senses. Listening to music, you can listen to music and be half aware of the lyrics or the melody, but if you really listen, wow, this sounds so beautiful. You're just fully engaged in that moment. I think that's what a lot of Zen Buddhists focus on, is living in the now, and how serene and enlightened you can be by doing that.
What I picture when I think of living in the now, and this doesn't apply to me, but you'll understand in a minute. When I think of living in the now, I look at it in an outside perspective by looking, when I was a kid, I used to think all the time, what does my house do when I'm gone?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it does nothing. Nothing moves, So applying that logic to us, it would be we're sitting there and we're essentially being that door or that shelf or that book. We're doing nothing. And it's relaxing. Does that make any sense?
Yes, it's just it's
a weird way to look at it.
Yeah.
That's all I got right there.
Okay, well, we can do a different subject.
No, I'm saying on that specific point about my house being nothing, doing nothing.
Yeah, I don't know. It just struck me today because I was listening to music and I was just really noticing how beautiful it was. And I've listened to the song like dozens of times, but I just observed it today. I was like, wow, this is really it's spiritual, I guess, to just fully be encompassed in that moment and just like, wow.
It's the idea of stillness where we're always moving. Even if when you're sleeping, you are moving.
Mm-hmm.
So when we consciously decide to not move anything, including our thoughts, because our thoughts they move constantly. When we choose to be still, is when we, if you want to look at it in terms of the Tao, the Taoists,
Mm-hmm.
it's getting in line with the Tao, because the flow of life, it's a natural thing, and when we choose to not interfere with it, we're flowing with the Tao, which is interesting because you would think of flow as like this movement of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the stillness of stuff.
Well, no, it makes sense. Like when I think of that flowingness, I picture a river, and you're maybe in the river, and life keeps moving. And if you think about it, or if you try to change that, being like, okay, what do I have to do? What do I have to do? Blah 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 blah, and everything. You're resisting that flow. You're not going with it. If you just let yourself kind of be in that moment. No, it totally makes sense.
It's the idea of swimming upstream when you can just chill and not put in as much work when you go with the flow.
Yeah.
And everything. And like I've said before, in nature, it's not pressure. There's no deadline. It always gets everything on. There's no deadline. There's no pressure to hurry up, but yet everything happens on time.
Yeah. And I guess like you're getting back to like the beginning of saying, well, this is just how it's going to end. You need a balance. Like,
and it's true.
By all means, don't just go with the flow and be like doing nothing your whole life.
The idea is that you can go with the flow, then the idea of free will comes in, or can come in.
Yeah.
I'm making it come in.
You can alter the flow.
Where, we have a choice in what we do. So if we're going with the flow, then we technically have no choice, unless you can consider choosing to go with the flow being the choice.
Well, or you could come to a fork in the river and be like, which flow do I take?
Well, I mean, you'll get smacked into the corner of it, but the water will push you some way.
Yeah.
Unless it splits you right in half,
But maybe
that wouldn't be fun. But you had to go through that.
And maybe that's where those like major life moments come in, those forks in the road where it's like, what direction do I take? And
no, I'm the same.
Well, what direction you take and determining on that. You know how in movies they have, future and past, like, oh, because I made this choice, this happened, and if I didn't make this choice, like, the whole world would be different. I think that's along the lines of this flow concept of we have these choices and that they dictate our flow. Now we're totally getting into like.
But see, I think of it in terms of synchronicity, where things happen. Obviously, like two things will happen, and it'll align perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
But we choose for that to happen. We work towards it. So whatever we want to happen, we synchronize with that flow.
Synchronicity.
Oh my God, I say it wrong all the time.
I know, it's such a. I have to be conscious of how I say it. But that was actually something else I wanted to bring up because, you and me see these angel numbers, like the number 11, all the time. And I think that's something that's so awesome is just getting this affirmation from the universe. Being like, hey, keep positive, you're heading in the right direction, or something where you're just conscious of these changes. That could be another mindful thing, is just when you see these things.
When you see numbers, I mean, don't look at the clock every single minute.
No, but it just happens, like, the weird thing.
Like, sometimes you just get this, like, random inkling to just look left,
Yeah.
and there's
you
something
see.
there.
Well, okay, weird thing. I woke up in the middle of the night last night, and I checked my clock, and it was 2:11.
That's weird.
I was like, and all I did was roll my eyes and was like, oh my god, are you kidding me? Like, it's just so funny that happens. And you can't
That's the
help but
only
smile.
thing that I truly love about spirituality that I undoubtedly think is awesome.
Is
Synchronicity.
Yeah.
Because it's you can explain it, but to experience it is where it really makes you feel like, holy crap,
Mm-hmm.
why is this happening?
Yeah.
And I feel like right now I'm going through a lot of things where March is coming up, but a lot of stuff is being pushed in and out.
For those of you who don't know about Omar and March, apparently something big is going to happen in March.
I guarantee you nothing is going to happen.
So says our coworker Gary. So all the pressure's on him.
And so it's just like, oddly enough, it's making sense that a lot of weird things would be happening in February. For me. This is just bringing it back to like how I've noticed synchronicity in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's going on with you.
I mean, I keep seeing the 11s, but that's always happened ever since becoming conscious. Like,
I think it's always happened for me since the beginning of last summer.
yeah.
Or the middle of last summer.
Well, about that time is both when we kind of had our conscious, because you got really sick, and then I got really sick.
I was really sick for a while.
Yeah, but remember how they were saying, like, you get physically sick in order for some new stage of growth to happen?
Mm-hmm.
So, it makes sense that we've both...
I also lost like 20 pounds. That was ridiculous.
Yeah.
That was ridiculous.
And I just remember being sick for like 3 days, and I know my sick patterns. Like, I always get sick once a year. It's a cold. It lasts a week. I know the symptoms. And this was totally different. Like, I was bedridden, and then I just felt very high vibrational. It's weird.
Some things that I've been questioning recently is, and it's funny because I started off with sacred geometry, but now I'm actually going back and questioning why these things are irrelevant. So the whole circle and square. Why, when you turn it 90 degrees, does it matter if it perfectly aligns with another part of a bigger square? Why is that relevant? You know.
Well, I haven't been big.
So the idea is that there's a ratio between a square and a circle, and you can see this in Da Vinci's Vitruvian Man.
Mm-hmm.
That perfect phi ratio. Although I don't think that shows the phi ratio, but you can never show the phi ratio. It's perfect. It's a perfect thing. I mean, you could. Anyways, I'm getting too much into that. The idea is that with each dimension that we go through, that circle and square ratio differentiates, trying to get closer and closer to phi every time. And so, right now, the circle and square that we're in, which is submersed in a bunch of other circle and square ratios laid on top of each other. This is better. You can see the actual animation on a Spirit Science video, but this is why I'm questioning it, because I'm trying to figure out why is that relevant? So he turns it 45 degrees, and the points of each square in the third dimensional square the third dimension square. It'll make sense in that video.
Like a cube?
No, it's not a cube. It is just a flat square.
Oh, okay.
But then there's a bigger square surrounding it. But when you turn it, it perfectly, the points align with the edges of that bigger square, or that bigger square. But what I'm wondering is, why does that matter? He's saying that it's the bridge to the next dimension, but why? It's just a square, you know?
Yeah. Well,
And I think it's a good thing that I'm questioning this, because I'm sure I'll find better answers out of it.
I'm sure. I really don't know as much about sacred geometry, or am into it as you are, but it is good to question things.
Yes, and I need to know answers. I don't want to be oblivious.
Yeah,
And I need to be able to see both sides before I make,
Well, you're searching for the truth.
Exactly.
Which I think anyone who is spiritual should do.
I think that's why it's been tough to talk about spirituality, because right now I'm being really skeptic on it on purpose.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, like I was saying, I think people who are spiritual do want to search for that truth.
I also want to look up if anyone has researched on those bottles that, or that the cups that have the flower of life on the bottom of it, that it rejuvenates the water. Is there any research on it?
Yeah.
You know, can it be shown that it's actually a truthful thing? Can you see it?
Or is it just some pseudoscience?
Exactly. Or do they alter it? If they alter it in some way, that would be really annoying.
Mm-hmm.
Or do they know something that we don't, but that's always tough to understand.
Yeah, or is there...
But if multiple people know it in this world, they should be able to replicate it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I wonder if it's something to do with just energy and intentions too, like if there's not scientific proof, or if it's more just like your intention, how you are intending that energy, you're giving off that energy, and in turn, like sort of like the placebo effect.
Yeah, because meditation has been shown scientifically to help the body and the mind and the person itself.
Mm-hmm.
So through experience it's been great too, but it's also nice to have that backing from actual research. So that's what I'm trying to do with this right now.
Well, and there's also finding that balance between science and spirituality, because while you can explain some spirituality with science, you can't do it all. Mm-hmm. There's some things where it's just you have this sort of faith or belief, and you can't explain it, but you just have this. Tough. It's not so much following your mind, it's following your intuition, which can't really be scientifically.
No, intuition would be tough to understand through the physical.
Yeah.
Tests.
Because it's that sixth sense.
Mm-hmm. But it's tough. It's good though. I think that's why I haven't written anything in a while, because I'm just looking into so many things.
Well, you think you're focused too much on your mind rather than like the intuition part?
No, I mean I'm following what I'm feeling. I've been feeling that I should be doing this. You know, like I'm
not with your mind, with like your
I'm like, it's a gut feeling that I should be skeptic on this right now.
Maybe that's following your intuition and finding something that will help kind of restore, or not.
And I just find it, and I undoubtedly believe in synchronicity, because of course this would happen in February.
Yeah, finding those connections
before March, whatever March is. Am I gonna die? I'm just dead in March. It's like, oh.
Yeah, let's not put a premonition on that. Because Gary was saying, like...
that a lot of spiritual people...
Yeah.
Spiritually inclined people are dying this year. I'm not, crazy advanced.
No, but you're conscious, and I don't know if that's what he meant by that. But I don't want to put too much thought to this.
If I die, just throw a party, please.
We did have that podcast about death.
Yeah, and it's only suiting that we follow a little bit after that.
But we never actually talked about how we wanted to die. Or not die.
Well, see,
I want our funerals
the way I want to die is I want a nice shard of metal from, a factory to randomly get flung 200,000 miles and land into my skull. It was, that's a good way to die, right? The joke.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's your sarcasm right there?
Yeah, it's sarcasm. No, I think we should save that for another day. His death was,
depressing.
Not depressing, it's just, we touched on it already.
Yeah.
And right now we're talking about spirituality and synchronicity.
And questioning it.
Yeah, and it's good to question it. I think then people will be more open to the idea of it, because we ourselves are choosing to also see, to uncover some of the mysteries of it.
Well, and this brings up the point of, I think that's why a lot of people who are in organized religion question organized religion.
Exactly.
Because there's this misconception that spirituality is organized religion, but It can be sometimes. Some people
can
can
be.
find their
Mhm.
spirituality through it, but some people question it and are like, wait, this doesn't make sense to me. And it's through these questions that you go out and search for answers, and you find something that does connect with you and is your enlightenment.
I mean, so you're going into feng shui right now. I think it's important that you question why those things work.
Yeah.
Or why people believe it. Because you don't want to go into it blind, just following someone else. I don't. And I've said this before to myself. I never want to just follow. I always need to know. I always need to have that understanding myself.
Yeah.
That's why I'm doing this.
And that's also why, no, I definitely have questioned things all of my life, and, wondering why this is very important, because then you have a better understanding of it, and it strengthens that connection. It's not, oh yeah, this happens, but I really don't know why, but someone else told me, and hey, it's good enough for me. It's it's that truth seeker part of the spirituality, is finding out that your truths.
And you
truths.
just notice a lot of things, and a lot of wise sayings, they can be contradictory. And we talked about this yesterday, how I have often said a wise man knows that he knows nothing. But at the same time, if you don't know anything, how can you possibly do anything?
Mm-hmm.
How can you gain wisdom when you don't know how to?
Yeah, but then
that there has to be some balance, because I've said this before too, that it's when you learn something, like a specific topic, you go into it, and if you say that you know everything about it now, you're oblivious to what other people have to say about it, what other perspectives and what other knowledge is out there on it.
It's a very foolish thing, because there's always different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to broaden your understanding.
And once again, it's all a balance.
Mm-hmm. Life is the balance, because we're in this duality right now, aren't we?
Yeah, it's tough.
Duality to become one.
You got anything else? Because I think I've thrown quite a bit of stuff out there.
Yeah, it was kind of all over the place, but it flowed, I feel.
Well, I mean, we started off with spirituality, we went into synchronicity, and then we went into questioning and making sure that what we're talking about is to the closest thing to legit as possible.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be feeding out bullshit.
And then we tied it back to balance and duality.
Yeah, just like how we started. I'm like, oh, we can end this with balance. And guess what? We ended it with balance.
Yes, but look, we filled it. We followed that journey toward the end of our podcast.
Yeah, and I gotta get to work soon, so this is a good time.
No, that's fine. All right, hope you enjoyed it.
Adios, everybody.